matters with who you're playing with, you know? Because if you got somebody playing kind of fancy or up the neck, especially with another mandolin player, if I'm playing down here, I would want somebody else maybe playing in this kind of register while I'm playing here. I think C is a good key to kind of like work from. There's so many things that you can do. Like, have you guys heard the term around the horn? Maybe playing around the horn. How many people are still here? Still here. Okay, good. So around the horn in jazz means 1 6 2 5 1. Kind of rhythm changes or whatever you may have heard, perhaps. No. 1 6 2 5 1. Anybody heard that? How many people have heard Salty Dog Blues? So the chords to that are 1 6 2 5 1. Let me be your salty dog, or 6, which is an E. A is 2. I won't be your man at all. D, honey, let me be your salty dog. Those are major, right? Those don't fit in the diatonic scale. There's a G sharp. There's no G sharp in a G scale. And there's no C sharp for the A in a G scale, right? So if I think about C, when I go up, there's no sharps or flats in C, so let's think about this for a second. C is 1. What's 2? D, right? But what are the notes of a D chord? Anybody know? We got D, F sharp, and A. But we're in the key of C, so there's no F sharp. So what chord is the 2 chord? D minor. Right? Okay, so we got C is 1, D minor. What's the 3 chord? E minor, because if we were playing E, we would have this G sharp in it. We don't want that. Right, we're talking about just a diatonic scale. C, D minor, E minor, and what's the 4 chord? F. So there's a major chord. So 1, 4, and what's the next major chord? 5, which is G. So 1, 4, and 5. You've heard people say that in bluegrass, right? I saw just the 1, 4, and 5. You'll be all right. You know, follow along, 1, 4, and 5. You've heard that, right? I'm sure. Right? So 1, 4, and 5, in musical terms, that's called the primary triad. It's called the primary triad. That's fancy talk for, the 1, 4, and 5. So what's the 6th chord? It's the relative of whatever the 1 chord is. So it's all the same notes. A minor is what it is. That's the next chord. So C, D minor, E minor, F, G, A minor. And here's the next one. What is it?
E diminished.
Yeah. B diminished, right? I'm going to say, just for the mandolin purposes, for shape purposes, we could even make it a minor chord, but the B minor has an F sharp, so we kind of cheat that a little bit. There's the B minor. See that? B minor C, or it could be, oops, sorry. There's the B diminished. But the thing about the diminished chord, it has a G sharp in it, doesn't it? Isn't that kind of weird? So anyway, let's not get into diminished. Let's talk about the diatonic scale for a second, because I think it's really important that everybody knows their chord scales, right? So there's a lot of songs with this in it that you've heard, and just even going up to the 4 chord, like the C, D minor, E minor, F, right? You've all heard this. I know you have here. I'm going to play something just so you know how to get there. You've all heard that, right? It's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then back. So it's like, I bet you could probably figure out how to play Mary Had a Little Lamb or happy birthday, because we've heard it all of our lives, right? So this is one of those kinds of songs, I think, that if I can have a song to play, I'll be able to, figure out those chords, at least up to the 5, or 4 rather. There's 1, right, up to 4. But I've kind of skipped past my 1, 6, 2, 5, 1. I wanted to play that in C. So what's the 6th chord now if we're in C? A minor, right? And what's the 1, 6, 2, what's the 2 chord? D minor. And then the 3 chord, or I'm sorry, the 5 chord is G, right? So I want to make the 6 minor an A minor 7. So I'm going to add a G in the top, and the chord looks like this. And then I want to make the D minor a D minor 7, so it looks like this. And then I'm going to play a non-rooted G9, G7 chord by just moving 1 note from the C to a B, and then that. And I'm sure you've heard this change up too, because we know we heard it, with the majors in Salty Dog Blues, but you've heard this too, where it's like 1, 6, 2, 5. There it is. I know you have. Right? Changes, I think, that are part of the fundamentals, right, in learning how chord progressions work. And there's so many melodies that are over some of these just like real standard little progressions. It's it's obviously there's like 2 or 3 of them right there that you all just were like, oh yeah, I know that, sure. I think those kind of things to be able to get under your fingers is really important to be able to jam, and play with anybody. I remember when I was about 13, my dad was a roofing contractor, and I grew up in California, and it was about 115 degrees on this roof, maybe 120. Felt like 300 degrees though, and working hard, lifting stuff. I was about 12 or 13, and I'd already played a couple of gigs on my fiddle and thought, oh man, that's easy money. I like that, And I told my dad on that roof, I remember it was very, very, it's like one of those things that just stick out in your memory. I said, man, I'm going to learn how to play my fiddle really well because I don't want to do this the rest of my life, And he gave me some sage advice. And I'm going to pass this along to all of you. Learn all styles of music and you'll never go hungry. Or learn as many styles of music as you can, and you'll never go hungry. And I thought, oh, that's pretty cool. All right, I'll try that. And so I played in country bands, western swing, I played in the Navy band, played electric guitar, country chicken picking to jazz to whatever, So I feel like it's an important thing to be able to just broaden that. The more you broaden the kind of stuff you learn and incorporate into your own playing, the more well-rounded of a musician you'll become for sure, And the most important thing I think for me when I go to play with other people, I would much rather play with somebody that has really good timing and is playing with really good tone. It may not be the fanciest, like shredder around, but if they can play like with some beautiful sound, and in time. make it musical. Very simple, good tone, and all those things. Like I played this G scale a little earlier. Good technique, good tone, good timing, but to me it's not musical yet. So I'm going to just give you a little bit of change up on a G scale. So I don't know what you can tell is going on there. I'm sure you've noticed maybe a volume change perhaps? Yeah, maybe a little intensity perhaps change. We call that a real fancy word for that. It's called dynamics. And what's that? Rhythm. Okay, well, rhythm is in there for sure, having some good rhythm. But part of the rhythm, for me at least, when I'm doing that kind of thing, there's a little bit. I always know where the center of the beat is. I'm still working on that. Working that, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5, so on and so forth, right? But I'm also fudging the tension a little bit, maybe on one part. I'm maybe pushing the beat a little bit or pulling back. I'm not playing out of time, but I'm kind of almost stretching the time to where it feels like it's moving, right? So it's becoming more musical. So that's the most elusive T that we were talking about, right? The T, like all the things that make music. Because we can play music all day long, but you're not doing anything until you're making music, right? So that's in my mind at least, I want to play music with people that are making music, right? And doing that, of course, is all those things that we talked about. Technique, tone, timing, tempo, and it doesn't have to be fancy. It just has to sound like music, right? And getting to that point is incorporating all those things to where you are knowing where that metronomic beat is. There it is. I'm accentuating it there. You hear it, right? Da, 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 da. 1, 2. All right. So now if I play around with that a little bit, I'm going to tug and pull a little bit. Not out of time, but it has some movement, right? And I'm able to move around that beat just enough to where it kind of adds a little tension, adds a little release, gives it a little bit of life. But there are other times where you want to be real metronomic too. It depends on the song and who you're playing with and what you're actually playing. But, I think the biggest thing when I do any of these workshops, of course, the 4 T's, but I usually have a whiteboard. And on this whiteboard, at the very top, I write a word, and it's underlined a few times with about 5 or 6 exclamation points, maybe some stars, circled a few times, and then bold, and capital letters, and it's the word awareness. And we have to be aware of what we're actually doing. That's the biggest part of being able to make music.
You can continue if you like.
Time's up? Okay, bye.
But you've done all the time you need to do.
All right.
But, if you're the last one of the day, so it's
Sweet.
okay.
In the closing.
And in closing, and in short, I hope you have a wonderful evening. Thank you guys for listening to me spew on. One last one? All right.